Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining, showing up for Matt Odie. Matt has a really incredible wow story of recovering from stage 3 testicular cancer. He went into multiple organ failures, liver and kidneys were shutting down. He went into cardiac arrest. He was in the ICU for 53 days and a coma for 2 weeks after having surgery, 4 surgeries actually, to remove an 11-centimeter tumor. And he lost 80, it was 80 pounds or so?
Yeah, close to 80 pounds. Yep.
Okay, almost 80 pounds as a personal trainer, was skin and bones, and worked himself back up. Went through a lot, with, we can talk about the body image stuff with your scar. That's a crazy scar. But you're now back and better than ever. And
yes.
Just such a shining example of hope and living an amazing life. So thank you so much for giving up your time to be with us, Matt.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I'm, blessed to be on here, and hopefully I can help your audience community in, any way possible, especially during this time, because I know with COVID, I know, anybody who's going through cancer and COVID, it's extremely challenging. But, at the end of the day, just to start off, what I really learned is that your biggest obstacles also produce the potentially biggest outcome in your life, the biggest positive outcome, the biggest lesson, the biggest opportunity to grow. So I'm excited and really happy to, share my story, but more importantly, share what I've learned as well.
Amen. That's awesome. Yeah, especially I was thinking during this time, it's we could use some good news, some hope. So yeah, could you share with us how you were diagnosed, what symptoms you had, and what happened with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am now 29, kind of weird to say, but I'm 29, just turned 29 yesterday. So, about 4 years ago now, 2016, I was diagnosed with stage 3C testicular cancer. And at the time I was a personal trainer. I was really healthy, eating the right foods, everything. And I started to notice these minor back pains, and all of a sudden it just got worse and worse and worse. And at the time I had just started dating my girlfriend for, maybe a month at that point. And we were doing all these activities together. And all of a sudden I had to stop doing these activities that we were doing, going hiking, kayaking, all these things. And of course, being stubborn, because I was 24 years old at the time, I was like, I'll just shrug it off. I'll be fine. And then all of a sudden one day I started puking up blood, and I got rushed to the emergency room, where they ended up having to pretty much figure out that I had lost 2/3 of the blood circulating in my body. So they immediately put me into an emergency surgery, and they couldn't figure out what the bleeding was causing. So the next day I wake up and I'm thinking I'm fine. I'm ready to go home. And the doctor walks in and he has this blank stare in his eyes. And immediately it was just me and my parents at the time. Nobody else kind of knew. Lauren knew I was in the hospital, which by the way is my girlfriend, but everybody else, no idea. So he walks in, comes over, he sits down, grabs my hand, and he says, "Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We believe it is cancerous, and we have to rush you to the main campus of the Cleveland Clinic immediately," which, thank goodness, I live in Cleveland, Ohio, the clinic is one of the top hospitals in the world. So that's how I found out I had cancer. Real quick lesson though is, the second I received that news, I remember looking over at my parents, and they were crying at the time. And, for me, the one thing I could think of was, how can I be strong for them? How can I be strong for Lauren? How can I be strong for everybody else? And when I started to think about other people, I stopped focusing on myself for a second, meaning what could happen negative wise, what could, potentially happen with this cancer, all these bad things. So when you, receive unexpected news in your life, just know this: there's 2 ways you can look at it. You can say, why is this happening to me? Or how is this happening for me? And if you say, why is this happening to me? All it's going to do is bring negative energy. You're going to blame other people. You're going to blame, yourself. You're going to just have this pity party, and it's going to get you nowhere. And yes, it's unfair. Yes, it's unexpected. But if you say, how is this happening for me? You can learn from it. You can grow from it. You become a better version of yourself. And more importantly, you can help the next person who's going on with a similar challenge that is similar to yours as well. And, I said, what, I'm going to go that route. I know I'm going to have a lot of ups and downs, but I cannot let cancer define me. So.
That's really inspiring. Yeah, it reminds me, right? It was so interesting. It was 2 days after I found out I had the stage 4 cancer. We had a motivational speaker come and talk to the athletes. And so I got to hear him speak about, staying positive and, being an inspiration to others and not letting anyone else outwork you, and so that's awesome. But it just came from inside of you. That's really remarkable.
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing for me is definitely my faith, 100%. Now, to anybody else, to each your own with your faith. But for me, God had a massive purpose in my life. And without my faith, I wouldn't be here today. I know for a fact. And there's going to be stories like you were, kind of sharing in the beginning of how, God and my faith really worked throughout me. So that was a massive part of my mindset, was saying, listen, it's not just me pushing myself forward. I have something bigger and, somebody up there that's really helping me get through this challenging moment.
Wow. Yeah. So what was, can you share about the hardest moment in this experience?
Oh, there was a lot of really challenging moments. But yeah, and this one specifically was sharing the news with my girlfriend, 100%. I was kind of like so shocked because I had family, friends flooding in before even she did. And I was so nervous when she got there because remember, I told you we'd only been dating and now at this point, maybe 2 to 2.5 months. And I was so afraid because I was like, if she wanted to break up with me, so be it. And I had no hard feelings about that. I mean, that's a huge burden to put on somebody who's only been dating, that long with you. Second she saw me, we locked eyes. We started hugging and, all my emotions let loose. And I was so happy I did because I was holding them in. And immediately I knew she was going to be my rock throughout this entire journey, along with my parents and some other people, but for her, for sure. So that was the hardest moment. And that specific time was having to share that news to Lauren and not knowing what the outcome might be. But she didn't even flinch. She was just right there. So.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a great blessing.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So how did that snowball of events with the surgery and all of the things that happened after that happen?
So here's the whole process of events really quickly. So as soon as I got told the news by the doctor, I was rushed to the main campus of the clinic. I was at a local hospital. They did about literally 50 tests on me, found out that I had the highest stage of testicular cancer. So stage 3C is actually the highest you can go. I asked my oncologist, he's like, there's not a stage 4, which you would have had apparently, but whatever. I'm grateful that, whatever, I'm still here. So, they put me on what's called BEP, which is 5 rounds of bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. Anybody who's gone through chemotherapy might know one of those drugs. I was put on all 3 of those for 5 rounds. And, I had all the complications you can think of. I mean, I was nauseous every day. I was extremely tired. I lost all my hair. To make matters really difficult. And this is where my first real mental hurdle came into play, was right smack in the middle of my chemotherapy. My 3-year-old puppy, who was diagnosed with cancer before me, ended up passing away. And I took him to all his chemo sessions, and he was like my best friend. And to have me and him fighting it together, really hit me hard. And I know anybody who's had a dog, it's really difficult to put one down. But, for me at 3 years old, to put him down and to cancer was just devastating. And that's why that was my first route of going into a victim mindset. I started to not want to go to chemo. I didn't want to get up off my bed, started making excuses for probably a good 4 to 5 days. And all of a sudden, one day I just woke up and I said, you know what? Is this what Duke, my dog at the time, is this what Lauren, my parents, my friends would want me to do? Just start giving up on myself. And I said, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So you know what I did? I did one little thing every single day to get myself better. This is a big lesson for all of you. One little thing. This is all I did, was saying, what is one thing I can do today to help myself get to where I need to be, which at that time was finishing chemotherapy. Maybe it was getting up off my bed and walking a little bit. Maybe it was eating something a little healthier. Maybe it was just getting myself to go to chemotherapy, but I needed to do one little thing every single day. So if this is you right now, who's struggling right now, you feel like you're in a rock bottom situation, don't feel like you need to do everything at once. One small thing a day can get you to a massive destination before you know it. But a lot of the times we want to get to it so quickly, we want instant gratification, that we never get anything done because we try to do everything at once. So I said, okay, I'm just going to start doing one thing every day. And eventually I finished chemotherapy. And, that was kind of like, for me, it felt like I kind of, conquered Mount Everest, because it was just such a big hurdle, such a big challenge. And, in a matter of, from when I received that news, it was just a total life shift from being a healthy personal trainer to now I'd already at this point probably lost about 40 pounds. I was, bald. I was super weak, super tired, no more muscle in my body. And, so after that, a really cool story before I get into the part of kind of all the real complications in my life. My dad decided to host an event and to kind of celebrate my chemotherapy. It was Thanksgiving at this point, and every Thanksgiving, a lot of cities do this too, obviously pre-COVID, where they host what's called a turkey trot or a 5 and 10K race. And my dad said, we're just going to get people to come that morning. We have no idea how many people are going to show up just to support you and congratulate you. Get there Thanksgiving morning, and we had over 400 people show up just to support me at like 6:30 in the morning. And it was 35 degrees in Cleveland, Ohio. And it was incredible. So wow. This is something I want to just share is like, I didn't even know 200 of those people, and people were just coming up to me and saying, Matt, we are praying for you. Matt, you're in our thoughts. Matt, we're always here for you if you need me. And if you feel like you're alone in your journey right now, I promise you, you're not. I promise you, there is support out there. There are people that want to help you. There are people that want to give back and pray for you and help you get to that next destination in your life. And that day was a total mindset shift for me of like, oh my gosh, I am not fighting this alone. I know I had Lauren, I know I had my parents and some friends, but to see that many people was truly incredible. So, so after that event, I sat down with my oncologist and he basically said, Matt, we have some good news and we have some bad news. The good news is your tumor is shrunk from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. I'm like, awesome, that's really good news. And he's like, but the bad news is it's wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now your inferior vena cava, we all have one, is a central vein that goes from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. So we're gonna have to do a 10 to 12 hour surgery to remove that vein. And we are gonna have to get 4 surgeons involved, and we have no idea what the complications are gonna be. So for 2.5 weeks, that was pretty, waiting for that surgery was pretty mentally draining, to say the least. I just wanted to get it over with. And I thought this was the end of my journey after this surgery. So eventually the day comes, I get the surgery. Going into the surgery, I'm about 140 pounds. They end up it was about a 10.5 hour surgery. They cut my whole entire stomach open, left hip to my right hip. And when I woke up, it was 3 days later, and I noticed something was just so wrong. I couldn't move. It was really hard for me to talk, everything. And I remember looking down and I had all this swelling all over my body. And I remember asking my doctor, I said, is this normal? And he said, no, this isn't normal, Matt, but the fluid should eventually drain out of your stomach. I said, okay, so be it. I get on the weight scale and I'm close to 200 pounds at this point. 200 pounds. I had gained 50 pounds almost of swelling throughout my entire body. What had happened is when they took out the vein, I guess my body went to survival mode and it just started to swell up with fluid. And it was just, I don't know exactly what happened, and doctors can't really explain it either. But to make matters worse, 2 weeks later, I'm eventually out of the hospital. And when the draining was supposed to be coming out of the draining tube they had made for me, all of a sudden it just stopped, just like that. Within minutes, I'm rushed back to the emergency room because I'm in so much pain. They end up rushing me to the Cleveland Clinic, and they end up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, caused me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I had a cone drilled inside my head because they thought I was gonna have swelling in my brain. I had a catheter in my chest. I had a catheter in my neck because they thought I was gonna be on dialysis the rest of my life. And that's when I ended up falling into a 2-week non-induced coma. I don't know if you want me to keep going or if you want to ask me any questions here.
No, definitely.
Just keep going. Okay.
Yeah.
So big story of faith here. When I was in that coma, my mom, who's, very in touch, with God, she's Christian, hosted prayer services. Hundreds of people, half of them didn't even believe in God, but they just came to these prayer services to pray for me. Hundreds of people were coming to him. She ordered 3 prayer services. That was it, 3 prayer services, hundreds of people coming. Dead smack in the middle of the very last prayer service was the day that I woke up from my coma. No question to me that God said, Matt, this isn't the end of your journey. This is only beginning. And to make things even more crazy, every single day, Lauren, who never left my side when I was going through chemo, and she stayed in that hospital room all 2 weeks, would come over to me, hold my hand and say, Matt, it's time to wake up. And every day, I wouldn't wake up. And when she was doing it, she was holding my hand. She felt my hand wiggle. And that's when she ran over to the doctors. They came in and they saw that I was starting to wake up. So I think she's an angel sent down. I don't know. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy stories.
Yeah.
I don't explain it. I can't explain any of these things just for me. This is why my faith is stronger and stronger every day. So, after that, you would think, okay, Matt's on the up and he's starting to do better. Well, things get, even worse. So a week later, I'm in my coma. I'm out of my coma. They go to take out the breathing tube. I also had a breathing tube in my mouth, of course, because I couldn't breathe on my own. They go to take the breathing tube out of my mouth. They go to take one of the catheters out of my neck because they're saying, hey, Matt, he's doing so good now. As they take the catheter out of my neck, I have an arrhythm heartbeat. I go into cardiac arrest, and they have to do 8 minutes of CPR on me. They had to get 6 different nurses in to do the CPR and to take turns. And I ended up falling back into another 1-week coma. So then I finally wake up about a month. I've been in the ICU now for close to a month, 3 weeks to a month. And it's now Valentine's Day. I had my surgery in early to mid-January, and now it's Valentine's Day. And I remember waking up, there's flowers everywhere, hearts everywhere. My parents and Lauren decorated. And at this point now, I really kind of knew where I was. When I first woke up from my coma, I was kind of in a daze. I didn't know what was going on. But this time, I actually knew what was going on. And I remember trying to get up. And at this point, I couldn't even move my fingers. I couldn't move anything. And I was freaking out. I thought I was paralyzed for a little bit. But the doctors came in and they're like, you have a long road of recovery to go ahead, but we're going to make this work. And as the days progressed, I started to move my hands. I started to move my body. And it took about 3 weeks from me laying in my bed to taking my very first steps again. Wow. With 3 to 4 nurses every day coming in, helping me rehab. And when I say rehab, it was helping me up or helping me just do little things. And, at this point, I'm 3 surgeries in because they had to drain all of the fluid out of my stomach. And eventually they're like, okay, we're going to get you out of the ICU room. And as they get me out of the ICU room, I still feel like something is just not right. But I listened to the nurses, went into the second recovery room into the hospital. And within 3 days, I'm making even more progress. I'm walking a little bit further. I guess I'm feeling a little bit better, but I still, in my mind, I knew that there just is something not right. I'm getting way too dizzy. My stomach just still doesn't feel right. Well, as they're wheeling me out, they say, okay, Matt, we're taking you to your final stages of physical therapy. As they're wheeling me out and I'm laying in my bed, not wheeling me in a wheelchair, in my bed, I don't want to get too gruesome, but my stitches pop open, my spleen's sticking out, and they have to rush me in for a major surgery, which is, my 4th major surgery. And they have to do what's called an open wound surgery, where they had to leave a football-sized mesh because they couldn't close my skin back together, a football-sized mesh over my stomach. And I'm sure you guessed, where I was back in the ICU room.
Oh my gosh.
And so, long story short, at this point, if I wasn't already in rock bottom, I was officially in rock bottom at this point. And I remember looking at the ceiling. This was maybe one of the scariest moments of my life, but also one of the most life-changing moments too, completely life-changing moments. Because when I woke up, once again, I knew exactly where I was. But this time, I had a breathing tube in my mouth. My hands were strapped to the bed. My legs were strapped to the bed because I guess I was moving too much and they didn't want me touching my stomach. And for 2 straight days, 2 days, I laid there where nobody knew that I was technically awake. And I had to sit there and pray. That's all I did. I prayed. I said, God, I'm in the lowest point of my life right now. I have 2 options here. I have 2 options. I can say, I fought so hard and I'm done. Take me. I'm good. Or if you give me this second chance, if you just give me another shot, I promise I'll make something of it. I will do something so big that will shock everybody. And, eventually I was released from, what I call my shackles, but, I was released, my hands were released, my feet were released, and literally within 3 days, I walked further than I had ever done previous to the ICU room, ever than I did to the recovery room. And I was out of the ICU room, I was out of the recovery room, and I was eventually into my final stages of physical therapy where, that was like, I had to learn to pretty much do everything again, from laying to sitting up off of a bed to sitting on a toilet, things we take for granted every day for about a week. And, after over 50 days in the hospital and over probably 40 days in the ICU, I was finally released. And here's a really cool story. I met Lauren on March 17th of 2016, which is St. Patrick's Day. I was released from the hospital after over 50 days on March 17th of 2017. 1 year exactly from when I met her. By the way, she never left that hospital unless she had to go to work. Her birthday was during that time, Valentine's Day. She didn't go with her friends. She didn't do anything. She stayed in the hospital and she was there for me. So were my parents. I had friends and family coming in. But talk about somebody in your life. This is what I want to share with you guys. Who is that one person that you know that no matter what you go through is going to be there for you? And you want to know what? Too many times, and I did this too, we take them for granted. We take them for granted. We know that, hey, if I go through a difficult time, well, it doesn't have to be cancer. It could be anything in life. I go through a difficult time, they're right there if I ask for their help. And yet we take it for granted too much. And I started to realize that until after this moment, and I started going in the recovery. But I just want to let you know, if you can recognize that person tonight, please, either tonight or tomorrow morning, just send them a text message and say how much you appreciate them in your life. Not only will it make a massive difference in their day, but it'll make a difference in your day too. I promise you. Too often we kind of let that slide when, we know there are people in our lives that, and maybe you're that person for somebody else, but I promise you, you're not alone. Once again, just like I told you, support system is so important when we go through difficult times in our lives. You try to fight these battles alone, you're going to have anxiety, you're going to have depression, you're going to get PTSD, you're going to get anger. All of these emotions are going to flood in, and the support system will help you. I promise you that. So, long story short, after that, it wasn't rainbows and butterflies. I'll tell you that. I remember how I said I lost close to 80 pounds. Technically, I guess you could say I lost 90 pounds because I was 110 pounds coming out of that hospital. 110 pounds, completely learning to walk again. I had a big open wound surgery that I had to get taken care of. And as a week went by, I started, without the nurses, without the doctors constantly coming in and helping me, I started to once again go into that victim mindset. I started to blame other people. I started to not want to do the things I wanted to or that I needed to do to get myself healthy. Literally, a week after I was out of the hospital, I was right back in the hospital with a standing heart rate of 150 beats a minute. My blood pressure was through the roof. My temperature was through the roof. And I had to stay in there for close to a week. When I came out, me and Lauren sat down and we basically came to the conclusion, if I don't start doing the things I need to do, I will not be here a month from now or 2 months from now, or when, I will not make it to next year, period. Just because I'm out of the hospital, I will not make it to next year if I don't start doing things. So you know what I did? Just like I told you, I took a 180, and this is for anybody who's on a health journey. This would be a good tip for you. Literally all I did was I picked up a 5-pound dumbbell and I started doing bicep curls. That's it for 20 minutes. You know what I did the next day? The same thing. And then I started to walk, instead of 50 meters, I started walking 100 meters. You know what else I did? Instead of, not eating as much, I started to eat a little bit healthier, and I started to eat a little bit more calories so I can get my weight back to where I need to be. Or maybe it's somebody who's trying to lose some weight. Maybe it's just slowly cutting some calories, and I started to drink some more water. One thing every single day. Within a couple of months, I started to gain about 20 to 25 pounds. Within 4 to 5 months, I started to gain 30 to 35 pounds. And a really cool story, another one that I just have a bunch of stories, but I just want to share this last one with you before I know you have some questions and stuff. Sorry, I went on a tangent here.
Give us all the stories.
I will, promise you. So another story, it's about 6 months after I was out of the hospital. I'm starting to feel good now. I'm about 145 pounds, feeling good, feeling confident, walking around. So I go, you know what? I'm going back to the ICU room and I'm visiting all the nurses that took care of me for those, 50 plus days I was in the hospital. Wow. Very first, I kid you not, the very first person I see when I get in there was the first responding nurse when I went to cardiac arrest, who saved my life. And we started hugging, we started crying. He looks at me and he says, Matt, I'm not even supposed to be here today. This is my very last day in the ICU room. I'm getting shipped off to a different hospital tomorrow. And this is just a godsend. He's like, I wasn't even supposed to be working. Someone had to call off and I had to come in and take their shift today. We still talk today. I kid you not. We still talk today. I have his number. I have his social media. People are meant to be in your life for a reason. It's just, there's too many stories. I could go on and on, but just a couple of them. There's just
that gave me goosebumps and brought tears to my eyes. That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah. So, a year goes by now. I finally get my stomach healed. Everything's starting to get back to normal. About 2 years goes by. I finally get to the point where mentally, emotionally, physically, I feel like, Matt, I'm starting to feel like me again. I'm starting to feel like myself. I'm not letting cancer or any of those situations take any control of my life. But the biggest part was, and some of you might be able to relate to this, and some of you may never went through cancer, but you went through a challenging moment in your life and you overcame it. And when you overcome that challenging moment, you feel like you have a bigger purpose. You feel like you have a bigger vision. You feel like there's something so much greater in this world for you to go out and do than maybe what you're currently doing. You know, I had an amazing job. It was a 9-to-5 job. And I said, you know what, Matt? Yeah, I might have liked it, but I got something bigger. God's got bigger plans for me. It's not just me, but God's got bigger plans for me. And I'm not going to, I told him when I was sitting on that bed locked up that if you give me a second chance, I promise you I won't take it lightly. And for a lot of you, you might be thinking the same thing of what is my next step in life? And for me, what helped me was getting around the right people that were in a similar direction as me. That's so important. I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to get to a destination in life, you need to be around people who are in a similar direction, a similar path as you. You want to be an artist, you need to be around other artists. You need to be around artists that are doing something with their lives, that are actually progressing every single day. You want to be in the health field, you need to start being in the health. It's just like anything, but don't be afraid to take that step. I don't care what age you're at. I don't care, what skill set you have. If you have a passion for it, you will figure out how to make it work. So I started getting around entrepreneurs. That's what I started to do. And the reason I got around entrepreneurs is because they solve problems and they want something really big. They want to accomplish massive things in their lives. So as I started getting around them and starting getting into business groups, I started to share my story. And of course, everyone's like, oh my God, Matt, you need to start sharing your story more. Mm-hmm. So that's how I became a motivational speaker. That's how I started to get on stages. This was all just last year. I started to get on stages in 2019. Wow. COVID hits, massive, okay, what the heck do I do? I have no idea. Yeah. And I just prayed and God gave me another path. And I started to slowly start to coach other cancer survivors who felt they had a bigger purpose in life. And then now I just created a little less than a month ago, I just created a Facebook group with cancer patients, cancer survivors, caregivers. And in less than a month, we have close to 300 people in the group already. And I'm telling you, this isn't me. This is, I don't even know how to explain it. I'm just so freaking grateful. And I just want to let you guys know, if you have a dream right now, if you have a purpose, don't be afraid to take action on it. Mm-hmm. Please do it. I promise you, you will fail along the way. You will get knocked down, but that's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you truly become the best version of yourself and make a massive impact in this world. So, that's kind of my story. That's how I'm at where I'm at right now. And just grateful for every single day that I still have here. So
that is so amazing, Matt.
Thanks.
I mean, I didn't know even a fraction of all of that. I'm just blown away, Matt, by your story. And
thank you.
Wow, like God is so huge, and you can tell in your life, how he worked, and the plans that he has for you. It's so cool. I was thinking, as you were speaking about, if you feel like you have something great that you want to do, that's how I felt after my cancer experience. And I was like, this is going to be like so big. And I had no idea what to do either. And so after actually was like December, I graduated halfway through the year. I prayed for 6 months before anything happened. I was like, God, what do you want me to do with my life? What do you want me to do with my life? And then that door opened, and my path was actually similar to yours in that the motivational speaker who came to my school, he offered to mentor me. He was like, I think you'd be great at this. And so I did that for a while. And then the doors closed, and it wasn't COVID, but then I started an integrative health coaching, or the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, the health coaching course. And I actually, it's so funny because, so I took that course and I became a certified health coach. And then I went to an entrepreneur conference where I ended up meeting Chris Work, who is a cancer coach. and he interviewed me for his blog, and then that's how I started doing coaching. And I want to point out about the fear that you had. That I'm very familiar with starting anything new. But I'm so grateful that you didn't let the fear hold you back from that. Do you want to share a little bit about that with the group?
100%. You want to know what the truth? It took me about 2.5 to 3 months to even start that Facebook group, but it was the best thing ever when I finally took that leap of faith. And there's been a lot of things like that. We too often are so easily able to create false stories in our head of the worst case scenarios. It's like we think of something and we think of the absolute worst case scenario, and we let that dictate our decisions, dictate our direction. And it's so easily, it happens to every single one of us. I totally get it. But the quicker you can recognize that it's not going to most likely be that. And even if it did, the world's not going to end. You're still going to be on here, and you can still keep pushing yourself forward. The quicker you can take imperfect action and start actually pursuing what you know is deep down in your heart. It might start in the mind, but when you feel it in here, I'll tell you right now, the most like goosebumps and emotions I ever had was right before I do something big with my life. It's the most fear too, though. That's the craziest part. It's the most fear, but it's also the biggest passion in my heart too. And I know right then when I feel fear, like a lot of fear, I know I need to break through another wall. That is just a wall I need to break through. That is just another setback that I need to overcome so that I can, figure out what the next step is in my journey. So, yeah, I'm telling you, just remember the failure is feedback. Any fear that you face, I look at it, fear as this: face everything and rise. That's the acronym for fear. Face everything and rise. And, I just live by that, I also live by the motto that I told you earlier. Everything happens for you, not to you. Yes, things are uncertain. Yes, things are not fair, completely unfair. But if you still have a breath on this earth, you have the decision of how you want to control that situation, period. I'm not saying it's fair. We all have unfair things in our life, but are you going to let it define you? Or are you going to say, hey, listen, I'm going to take it by the horns and I'm going to be the best person I can through it. And if I do overcome this, and when I do overcome this situation, the amount of people I can help that are in a similar situation as me is probably pretty big, probably pretty great. So think about that next time you go through a challenging moment in your life. Are you going to let it define you, or are you going to be the victim, or are you going to be the person who overcomes that situation and be victorious through it?
Amen. That's beautiful. Yeah, and yeah, of course. And then that reminds me of a book that I'm reading through called The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth by John Maxwell. He talks about failure, make failure your friend because it's inevitable, and, learn from it, use it as a learning opportunity. And the faster you go through life, the more failure you're going to experience, just because, that's the rate that you're going at. It doesn't mean that you're on the wrong path. It just means you're going, quickly.
Success rewards speed.
What's that?
Yes, I said success rewards speed.
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
It's a big one. And I'm not saying just blow by things, but I'm saying, like you just said, the quicker that you're willing to fail, the quicker you're willing to take that, those risks, the quicker you're going to find that success. Every no gets you closer to yes. I can go on all day with all these things, but I'm just trying to, one of these things is going to, catch on, and you're going to be like, oh, okay. So yeah, it makes a big difference.
Awesome. So great, Matt. Thank you again for sharing your story.
Absolutely, of course.
And so if anyone has any questions, please unmute yourself and ask away.
Don't be shy.
Yeah, totally. Or if you have any just words of, comments, any similarities, or anything you want to share with Matt, go ahead.
Once again, don't be shy, guys. This is my favorite part, is answering questions. So if you have anything you wanted to ask me or share, whatever, please don't be afraid.
Cindy said faithful surrender. She talked about, relating to your experience. And Jeff also commented a couple days ago. He wasn't able to join today, but he said he's out from his first cancer, bilateral testicular cancer. He wanted to know what chemo you did, or if you did chemo, what kind, and you did talk about that.
Yeah, bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. Those are my 3 drugs that I was on for 5 pounds.
Okay. And then he said he was curious because he felt that what he did gave him the second the second cancer in 2017. So he was wondering what you feel about the chemo.
Chemo might not be for everybody. For me, I didn't have a choice. If I didn't get my chemo, I wouldn't be here today because my cancer was so advanced. I mean, maybe there's some other miracle thing, but I'll tell you right now, everyone's different. Our bodies react differently. I'm not saying I've heard miracles where people got off such as yourself. People get off of chemo. They're like, hey, you have this much time to live. And the next thing you know, 10 years later, they're sharing their story as a testimony. To me, that's faith. To me, that's bigger than any medical thing that can happen. But at that time, I truly think I needed chemo. Yeah, there's been side effects and stuff, but at the end of the day, it got my tumor down to where it needed to be, and it eliminated a lot of the cancer that had spread to my lungs, that spread to all over my body. So, I that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and you look great, and it sounds like thanks. You're doing really amazing.
Thank you. Yeah,
it hasn't stopped you one bit. It doesn't seem like.
No, I'm at the point now where I can work out again 6-7 days a week. There's no limitations on myself. I don't put limitations on myself. That's a big thing. This is the problem. What I see is a lot of people who go through challenging, difficult times, whether it's cancer or a traumatic experience physically in their body, is don't put limitations on yourself. You know how many doctors told me, Matt, you can't do this, Matt, you can't do that. And I went out and I tried it anyways. And guess what? I'm doing it now. And they're like, you're a miracle. It wasn't I was a miracle. It was I gave it a shot. I'm not saying go hurt yourself or do something crazy. I'm saying just because one person tells you something does not mean that's the end result, does not mean that that's what it's ultimately going to be. With my diagnosis and what I went through, I probably shouldn't be here today, but even if so, I shouldn't be able to do the things I can do. And it's just because I didn't put limitations on myself and I pushed myself forward every day and I was consistent with it. Consistency is key. Every single day, if you're trying to figure out your health, you're trying to figure out your finances, you're trying to be a better father or mother or a better, boyfriend or girlfriend in a relationship, show up every single day. And when you show up, be present. Be present. That is so important. I just want to say that real quick is whatever you're doing in your day, don't be distracted by something else. Be present in that moment. And then when the time's up, be present in the next thing. We get so distracted through social media, through the news, through the election that's going on, through other things that are going on. Stop being distracted by things. You need to stay focused. The more focused you get, the more clear you're going to get on your direction, the quicker you're going to get to your results. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Somebody sent something.
Yeah. Paula asked to repeat it again about it's not happening to me, it's happening for me.
Oh, you want me to say that again?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. One more time. The analogy is everything in life happens for you, not to you. And how you can look at it is stop saying, why is this happening to me? Stop going into a victim mindset. Although a lot of the times when we face a problem, once again, every problem we face, a lot of the time is not going to be fair. It's not. It's going to be unexpected news. It's going to be unexpected scenarios. Yet, if we constantly let it define us, if we constantly blame other people, if we constantly, have this negative mindset towards it, it's going to get us nowhere. But the second we say, how can I learn from it? How can I grow from it? And then how can I use it to help others? Is when you can finally, grow from the experience, learn from the experience, and not let it define you anymore. You want to know why so many people have depression, anxiety, anger, PTSD? I have tons of friends who are facing things like that. And I try to tell them every day, you're falling into a victim mindset. You're blaming yourself, you're blaming other people, and you're not saying, how can I learn from this? Yes, it's unfair. I get it. At the end of the day, it's not fair. And yes, some things are just, life in general ain't fair. But guess what? You have 2 ways to look at it. That's it, period. You have 2 ways to look at your scenario. You be the decider. You're going to let life drag you down, or you're going to become the superhero of your life and help other people through your experience, period. So.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Someone asked, well, you were healthy. You said you ate healthy before. Someone asked if you've implemented any nutritional changes in your life now.
So yes, because I do have a little bit higher blood pressure and my blood sugar was a
Mm.
little bit high too. So the biggest things is I cut a little bit more sodium out of my diet. I was lifting a ton. I still do lift a lot, but so you need to have sodium, especially
Mm.
when you're working out so much. You know, sweat comes out. You need to replenish it with sodium. But I cut back a little bit on that so that my blood pressure could lower a little bit. Besides that, a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. If you eat meat, lean meats, chicken, lean turkey. I do have red meat once in a while because I just love steak. But if you're a
Mhm.
vegetarian, if you're vegan, you know, there's other options as well. But the one thing that I really did cut a little bit less is a little bit less sodium and a lot of water. I drink a lot
Mm.
of water. Big thing, because guess what? Water is, I mean, we're made up mostly of water. And the water, when you drink, you know, at least a half a gallon a day, it absorbs all the good nutrients and it flushes out all the toxins.
Mm.
So think about it. Every time you're putting in something healthy in your body, if you're not putting in any water, it can't absorb those nutrients. It can't absorb all the
Mm.
healthy things that you're putting in your body. Ultimately, it's almost like you know, you're not putting as much, you know, not putting as much as you should be in your body because you're not drinking the water you should be. So not only does it do that, it helps with, you know, muscle cramping, it helps with your blood pressure, it helps with your blood sugar, all of these things. So a lot of water and tons of vegetables. Find whatever vegetables you enjoy. I mean, especially leafy greens are awesome. Spinach, kale, broccoli. I love peppers. And then fruits, really quickly. I do berries. I love blueberries.
Mm.
That's my go-to. So that's kind of been my nutritional thing. And if you're really trying to lose or gain weight, all you need to do, simple as this. I've been a personal trainer for 8 years, and I try to make it as simple as I can for my clients because I don't want them having to count macros and all this. If you're trying to lose weight, go online, figure out what your maintenance calories are, meaning maybe I should be consuming 2,500 calories a day, and that's going to keep me at the weight I should. And all you need to do if you're trying to lose weight, cut it by 250 and see how the scale works. Do not starve yourself to lose
Mm.
the weight. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to do you any good. Yeah, you might lose weight, but you're going to feel like crap doing it. So,
Mm.
um, you know, find your maintenance calories, and all you need to do is subtract it by 250 or add 250 calories if you're trying to gain some muscle. That's it.
That's great. Thanks. Um,
Thank you, Leanne.
yeah. Not only are you a miracle, but God gave you so much wisdom for 29.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just very blessed to be able to share my experience with everybody, and every day is just an opportunity to hopefully impact one extra person. This is a really cool acronym for you guys. HOPE. Help one person every day. If you can do that, I promise you, you're gonna feel amazing about yourself, and you know you're gonna be on a fulfilling journey for the rest of your life. You can just help one person every day. That's it. HOPE.
That's so great.
Thanks.
Yeah. Instead of looking inward, looking outward at other people.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay. And then someone asked how you got rid of the rest of the cancer after it was 3 centimeters, but that was the surgery, right?
Yes. Yeah. So they did the surgery. They moved all of the lymph nodes. You know, I think it's called RLP and RL. Gosh, I forget the acronym for it. But yeah, they took out all the lymph nodes. They took out my tumor. So I was technically cancer free when I went into my coma, and everything else after that was my just body shutting down. My kidneys, my liver, everything. So yeah, thank you. RPLND. Yeah, I always get mixed up. As many as I can remember acronyms, I couldn't remember that one. Thank you. Yeah, RPLND.
Matt, I guess that's a good time for me to chime in. I appreciate you sharing your story, and I'm sorry I missed the beginning portion of it.
No worries.
Bailey, I'm friends with Bailey, and she passed along the information that you were doing this talk. I actually was diagnosed this year with stage 2 testicular cancer. And I had it bilaterally, and I've had 3 surgeries since then, and I'm currently on surveillance. So, yeah, and I had my second surgery was that RPLND one, which is definitely a peach to go through. So it wasn't a fun experience, but I'm glad that knock on wood, I haven't had to have the need for chemo because of the surgeries that I've had, and so all being said, it definitely has been a whirlwind of experience, but looking back without having to do chemo so far, I feel fortunate and everything.
That is incredible, man. I'm so proud of you. You know, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling okay now, or just kind of recovering still?
You know what? I don't want to say like I'm all recovered and everything, but all being said,
Yeah.
I'm feeling good and everything.
Good.
Definitely, I just last week I had a follow up with my urologist who's getting me on testosterone replacement. So we're trying to tweak that and figure out the right dosage and everything. But yeah, it's going and everything, and I'm feeling pretty good with all I've
Awesome.
been through. Yeah,
I
glad to hear
promise
you're
you.
feeling pretty good.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. I'm so happy to hear that. And I promise you over time, it's just going to get better. Just don't forget to do the rehab and continue to just keep progressing forward every day. I promise you, you're going to look back a year from now and be so proud of what you've been able to overcome. And someone's going to come up to you kind of like you did to me. And you're going to be able to share your experience with them. I promise you. And if you want, you can be more than happy. You can follow me on Facebook or Instagram. It's just Matt Odie. Shoot me a DM. I'd be happy to, if you want to talk personally or anything,
found
be
the
happy to help you
Facebook
too.
group and I
Yeah.
found the Facebook group and I put it in the request and everything. I didn't
Perfect. I'll
catch.
get
So
you in.
when did you go through all this yourself? Like how long ago was it?
Yeah, no worries. So I went through in 2016. I was diagnosed with cancer. In 2017 is when I went through all of the complications. So August of 2016 to November was chemo, and then my complications was from January till March. And then for me, honestly, it took 2 years to really recover myself. I'm not saying it's gonna take that long for you. It's just I had to really recover them. It started with the mental and emotional part, honestly, and then eventually I could get into the physical part. So I always tell people, if you're trying to recover physically, you need to be ready up here too, because in order to make that change, in order to break through those walls, you need to be prepared for the days that you're not feeling good to still keep pushing forward, to still say, hey, listen, this is just as much an emotional and mental battle. And I'm still going to keep pushing forward. And I'm still going to keep doing the things I need to do every day to get myself better. So.
Amazing.
That sounds great.
Cool.
Great. Any other questions?
Awesome. Galax said, oh, sorry, I'm just reading what she was saying. Testimonies as you is such an inspiration to me of hope. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate that. I hope I was able to help somebody today. And if anybody does want to just send me a DM or join my Facebook group, you are absolutely more than welcome to. I'm so happy Bailey put this together because I love, it's not really my story that I like sharing. It's being able to help people through their own stories, help people create their own stories to help others. It's kind of like a chain effect, so thanks again.
Oh man. Thank you, Matt. This was amazing. I can't wait to share it, get it on YouTube and send it to my email list and share on Instagram and Facebook. So, wow.
Awesome.
That was so great. I hope we can do this again sometime, Matt.
Anytime.
Yeah, and thank you so much for overcoming that hurdle to start the Facebook group.
Of course. Yeah, remember guys, thank you. Last thing before I leave, remember, if you have something in your heart, don't be afraid to go and do it. Take that imperfect action. Just go for it. Yeah, you might fail, but I promise you in the end, you're gonna be so happy you did it. That's all I'll leave you guys with. So.
Amen. Actually, okay, sorry. Last word is how can we pray for you, Matt?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I'd rather just pray for the entire group. That's all. I'd rather pray for all of us and just if you could just give a prayer to anybody who's struggling right now to find hope in their life, find that path and find that direction. I'd love for you to pray for that. So.
Wow, that's beautiful. Thank you so much, Matt. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your night and talk soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Bye-bye.